Welcome back then folks to day 4 of Special Projects Pack number 12, and this one will of course be familiar to the Forza fans and some JDM fans in general, but probably if you have played the older Forza games. Of course not too long ago I talked about this in Forza 2. It's a vehicle which is so rare, so obscure, that even in Forza it doesn't have a wiki page, which is so weird. It's the only vehicle I can think of in the game off the top of my head that doesn't even have its own wiki. It's so weird that they overlooked it because it's a pretty iconic little car for Fairlady fans. It's called the Fairlady Z 432R, and for those who are unfamiliar with it, the basic idea here is it's a Skyline of the time combined with a Fairlady. So it's literally powered by that legendary Skyline motor. Now this one you'll notice is running quite a bit of horsepower. Up around 250 seems like a bit of overkill, and the JDM aficionados will immediately say, hang on a minute, it shouldn't have that much power. It should be more like 160, 170 or so, like the Skyline. That is true. In real life it was more like that. On this one though, I've taken a bit of creative liberty and used Forza 2 as the reference. Now I don't understand why they gave the car 250 horsepower stock in that game, but I like the idea of kind of mishmashing real life with Forza as well, and in terms of the weight, I've done the same thing. If I recall correctly, I think the weight is closer to real life though, at 855 kilos, and of course a ton of people have done this livery. It's such an easy one to do, or at least it looks that way. But to get it really right, you really do need to pay attention to the details, and that's why I chose this particular player's one. I like the tone they've gone for of orange, I like the little stickers, it's even got the stickers on the side windows and stuff, really for those little details that I quite like. In terms of actually building it, it's quite simple. So of course, once you pick up the car, which I believe comes up in the, used dealer every so often, I don't think it was a legendary car. So as far as the parts, a couple of things that I've done might seem a bit odd, but I'd recommend trying it and seeing what you think before fitting other stuff. So we've got the sports air filter purchased. You don't actually need to buy the other exhausts because I purchased a couple of them to see what visual difference it would make, and also to get us up even to 250. You didn't need it in the end, either for the visuals or for the power, so you don't need to upgrade the exhaust at all. As far as the pads, those are upgraded to sports, which seems kind of appropriate to the car. It comes on comfort mediums as standard, which you could leave it on if you wanted to. I've upgraded it just a little bit to comfort softs. It's got stage 1 weight reduction as well, as you can see. As far as the club sports, if I just jump to the ultimate section, it's got high lift cams, as you can see there, so you don't need to worry so much about these ones. It's got a bored out engine, and of course this is mostly to bring it up to the size it should be, with that Skyline motor as well. The high compression pistons, the sports clutch and flywheel. We do have the power restrictor, even though I'm not actually using it for this one, but it comes in handy if you ever do need it. Stage 2 weight loss and ballast as well. There's a tiny bit of ballast involved on this build that you'll see in a second. Once again, you don't need the semi-race silencer, so don't worry about that. The fully customised ECU, of course that's not period correct, but with many classics it isn't, and you've got to get the horsepower one way or another. We've got the racing crank, that's definitely overkill compared to the real thing, but again, there's only so many things you can fit without going over the top with the turbo in order to get us to that power level. And like I said, if you do go for the more realistic, like 170 horsepower region, that's a lot easier to get to. So we've got the fully customised diff, the height adjustable sports suspension rather than, full-on racing suspension, stage 3 weight, body rigidity I actually have gone for this one. I don't always do that, but for this one I would say it's beneficial. We've got the polished ports, the balanced tuning, we've stroked and bored out the engine, like I said. As far as the manifold, that is also a bit of overkill there with the racing one. As far as the rest of the stuff there, nothing else is fitted. For the extreme section, no surprise for those who follow my special projects, I mostly always fit the steering angle adapter because even though it isn't a drift build, it does help with the turn-in on corners. It gives your steering more range of motion, if you will. And then for the ultimate stuff, like I said, the high lift cams and also the titanium rods and pistons, also wildly overkill for the vehicle if you are running 170, so it depends what kind of route you want to go down. If you're a Forza fan like myself, and I know some of you are, then go for, I would say, 250 horsepower because it's kind of fun and nostalgic. If you want to go compared to real life, then go more like 160, 170 horsepower. So you could potentially find it quite a useful car either way, even with 250. It's barely over 500 points, so that's not bad for a vehicle that's that light and that powerful. As far as the actual tuning, of course, we've got the softs on for the suspension, 130mm. 1 is stuck for the anti-roll, of course, with this particular suspension. 35 and 45 for the dampers, 1.95 for the springs. So not too crazy, but fairly stiff. Half a degree of camber, so just a little bit. And as far as the toe, that is stuck as is. Thankfully, it does have some toe, so that's good for stability anyway. For the diff, I've got 20, 20 and 50. Bit different to what I might usually do. Give it a try and see what you think. I will say the car has a bit more understeer than you might expect from something like this. You can still get the tail out, but in particular midway, like the midpoint through a long sweeping corner, is where you'll start to notice it trying to pull out a little bit. So be careful with your throttle use on the exit of a corner. And again, that's probably partially due to having 250 horsepower on comfort tyres in a small classic. So it will depend how much power you're running with it. As far as the transmission, of course, that was standard, as you could see. You could always fit like a fully customised manual or something if you wanted to, but I wanted to keep that kind of slightly sluggish, slightly laggy, original stock transmission, because it feels appropriate to the car of the time, at least in my opinion. A tiny bit of ballast, like I said, only 3 kilos. I've put that all the way to the back. Not that it really makes much of a difference, but that's just to get us up to 855. The ECU and the power restrictor, like I said, are untouched. Downforce I've got as low as possible. Of course, the aero is taken care of if you download the livery from the player. And then all the parts over here, you can see what we've got fitted. So a whole bunch of this stuff down here that's not reversible. Not so much on the other parts section though. So that's it for the build. Now, of course, you want to see what it can do in action. Now, in terms of my notes on using this particular car, I would encourage you to not really slam on the brakes. And again, leaving the brakes standard in terms of discs, but upgraded in terms of pads. I did that so that it would have a bit more realism and feel a bit more authentic to what a classic arguably should be like, at least in the case of this one. But in terms of how quick it actually is, this is less than a second behind the Tommy Kyra Silvia that I did not too long ago in Special Projects. That's not bad for a car like this. Now obviously this is fairly powerful, but I wouldn't expect a car like this to be as quick as a build like that. Granted, it's a short circuit, but still, that's not bad, I don't think. And in terms of using the car, of course, with understeer, you have to prepare for that, account for it. Like I said, don't slam on the brakes, have more of a roll-on, roll-off approach, and you can pretty easily control the understeer just by backing off the throttle or not engaging it quite so early midway through the corner. More of a point and shoot approach. There's a combination of reasons for that. The particular diff that I'm running is one reason, the tyres are another. Having that much power, of course, adds to it. So across the board, it depends on exactly how you want to approach the build, in particular when it comes to the power, but also a few of these other little choices as well. So if you do decide to use it, I hope you enjoy it. Definitely a nostalgic build for Forza 2 fans or for 432R fans in general. Definitely a unicorn car for sure. And I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, that Gran Turismo never featured this. You would think that for a series that loves the Skyline so much, or maybe they did, I don't recall, this could be the kind of thing that maybe popped up in Gran Turismo 1 or 2 and I just never noticed it, but I don't think they ever had it. But either way, I hope you enjoy it. If you do decide to use it, check out the rest of the special projects this week, of course, and the ones which I've already done. But for now, thanks for watching.